As an inventor, you talked about how he provides certain things for Scarlett to enable her to do what she needs to do. Did you have any favorites of the things that Herb had? The helmet?
I liked a lot of them, and what I really liked was that Herb paid a lot of attention to kind of how the like design of them. It wasn't just a practical approach, but there was very much a design and he has a very cool design aesthetic, and it seems very Herb. It's very mod. I wouldn't want to say modern. It's very mod. It's very groovy. My favorite has got to be the hypno hat. Just sort of like a weird beret that gives you telegenetic telekinesis powers, some sort of whatever that word is. But you need to be very careful with said hat, or it can be a disaster. I wonder if anything will go wrong. But yeah, it's it's super cool. I like Herb's whole style.
Is this one time that you almost wish this was live action so you could take the wardrobe with you?
Well, I would have to lose so much weight to fit in his clothing. First of all, he's two-dimensional, so that's an issue. But he's very skinny. He's comically skinny. You have to understand that like clothes on animated people fit differently. You'll notice that the Minions wear overalls, right? Part of an overall's entire thing is that they hang by straps on your shoulders. The Minions don't have shoulders. How are those overalls staying up? We don't know. We don't know. Tape. Screws. Glue. We don't know. You know what? We don't need to know. They just are. Don't worry about it.
Be explained in the sequel.
Yeah, there'll be a whole movie about their overalls. It'll be called Overalls.
It was kind of cool, though, considering that this is an origin story, to see how they actually come to their overalls.
I agree, and I thought that part was very cool. The whole idea of getting us into this story was a very interesting thing, and then of course this leading into Gru and the Despicable Me stuff, it was very cool as well. So I thought it was nice to see how these little fellas came into being.
Can you talk a little bit more about your voice? Because one of the things I thought was so great that it's not immediately recognizable as John Hamm. And a lot
well,
of
I think what people think too is that it's not immediately recognizable as Don Draper. That's what I think people are really a little more surprised at. I definitely don't sound in my real life like Don Draper either, as you can tell. I think people for the longest time, because maybe didn't know me or spent a lot of time with me or see me being me in person, just assumed that I was Don Draper because I look like Don Draper and I wear the same suits as Don Draper, and so I must be Don Draper. That's how I always sound. I always sound sort of resonant and cool and very baritone and all of that stuff. I don't. That's kind of what I do when I do Don Draper. But part of the fun part of doing voice acting and especially being kind of a crazy cool character in an animated film is that you get to really play around with your voice, and I don't have the instrument that Bill Hader has or Amy Poehler or some of these people that have just crazy, flexible voices, for want of a better word. But I can do a little something, I can do some voices and some tricks and some this and some that's. So I think I'm glad that it's not immediately recognizable as something, because I'm glad people can just look at it and be like, oh, that's a funny character. Oh, that's John Hamm. Oh, great.
Pierre and Kyle were both so thrilled with your Adlibs and your just ability to go off the page during all the voice sessions. Did you have fun with that?
I had a blast doing that, and big part of like what makes this process so collaborative is that they're there. Whether they're on Skype, sometimes Pierre would Skype in from France, where they did a lot of the animation, a lot of the production on the film, but oftentimes they would be in the studio, in person, and Brian as well, and you would say, well, what about this? And like, maybe, is that funnier, or is this funnier? Or you'd say something, just kind of ad-lib it, and it would get a laugh, and so, okay, well, do we like that better? You know, and that's the good thing about it is if you record it, you have it, you can use it, you can plug it in, you can pull it out, you can trade it out with other jokes, and so that's part of the fun of it. You know, you get to make these choices and decisions, and if they don't work, you just hit delete, and that's it, and you don't have to worry about it. You know.
And working with the guys, Sandra told us when we talked to her that they were really there for her as actors, and you know they were there off camera, where sometimes your partner
Yes.
isn't there. So how was your experience with Stuart, Bob, and Kevin?
Well, great, because you know, I mean, it's what Pierre does with those voices is amazing. They're so specific. It's so specific, and yet it's seemingly so random. Do you know what I mean? And so it's such a facile command of not only whatever language they're speaking, but the mixture of all of those languages. Because I was saying to somebody else, it's like only like someone that was raised in Europe can kind of seemingly have that many languages to choose from, right at the tip of their tongue. And it's a fun kind of game to listen to what words the minions do have, and like, why is that Greek? Like, why would they pick Greek for that? Oh God, they know Greek. Of course they know Greek because they used to be minions for Alexander the Great or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it makes sense in its own weird logic, but it's very cool, and I think it's very nice, like to let kids know that you know, learning other languages is actually kind of interesting and cool. I mean, I think there should be an app for learning languages with the minions, I think. And if anybody does that, I'm getting a piece of it.
Such a Herb thing to say.